Piper and the Pooka. In the days of old there lived a man who was half a fool and who thought himself a great piper, though he could only play one tune. He went around with his cap before him, playing the Black Rogue over and over, and the gentlemen in the drinking shops used to get a great laugh out of him. One night the piper walked home a little drunk after playing music at a dance. The wind was up and clouded the moon, and to keep his hands warm he began to play the pipes. He took a shortcut through a field that would lead him to his mother's house. The field was black before him, and he could not see his feet. And he was halfway along when a gust of wind flung him onto his back. The man closed his eyes and refused to open them, for he knew this was no wind at all, but the goings-on of the Pooka. When he opened his eyes, he could see nothing before him but the long, cold horns that had tossed him onto his back. It was the Pooka indeed, the greatest trickster in Ireland, and the bringer of both good and bad fortune. He turned away in fear and roared at the top of his voice, "Leave me be, ye brute! The few quid I have is for my mother, and you're not getting none of it." It was then that the Pooka spoke with a baleful breath that smelt like some wild animal from a field. "Grab a hold of my horns," the Pooka said, "for I need a piper tonight, and we're going for a long ride." The piper found himself flying through the air as he was tossed onto the Pooka's back. And as they raced through the field, the Pooka said, "Play me the tune of Sean Van Vogt. I haven't heard that in the longest while." But the piper did not know how to play it. "I only know one tune," he said. "Let me play you the Black Rogue instead." "Never mind that," said the Pooka. "Blow the pipes as though you know the song, and I will place the tune in your head." When the man began to play the pipes, the sweetest music came out of them. "Tonight," said the Pooka, "we're going to Crowpatrick, to a feast in the house of the Banshee, and though it's a long way to go, you'll be well paid for your trouble." As Ireland lay under the shadow of night, they flew across the hills and the boglands, and in no time at all they had reached the top of Crowpatrick. The Pooka struck 3 blows with his horn at the door of the house of the Banshee, and it opened onto a room that did not seem to belong to the mountain at all. Inside, the piper saw hideous old women with long streaming hair sitting round a great table. "We bid you welcome," said one of the Banshee, taking a comb from her hair. "Who is this you have brought to our door?" "For your feast tonight," the Pooka said, "I have brought you the greatest piper in Ireland." A strange energy entered into the piper's hands as he began to play, and he knew every song in the land. The Banshee women began to dance and did not let up until sunrise. When the feast was over, the Pooka tossed the piper onto his back. "Come along now," said the Pooka. "It's time we got home, but first the piper must be paid." At that, the Banshee women each placed a coin into the piper's hand, and he stamped his foot and shouted aloud, "I'm as rich as the son of a lord." As Ireland came under the light of the sun, they flew across the hills and boglands, and in no time at all the Pooka dropped him off at the edge of the field in front of his mother's house. The piper knocked on his mother's door and woke up from her bed. "Let me in," he said. "I'm as rich as the son of a lord, and I'm the greatest piper in Ireland." His mother opened the door and met him with a scornful look. "You're drunk," she said, "and you're covered in muck. Go wash and go to bed." But the piper stood before her and shook his head. "Not until you hear the music I have to play." He brought up the pipes and began to play, but instead of sweet music, an awful screeching clatter came out of them, and his mother fell around laughing at him. "And what about your great wealth?" she said. "I suppose you're going to buy me a new house?" She watched the piper reach into his pockets, but all he could find was stones covered in muck. "You're some fool for a mother to have to put up with," she said. "Now, go to bed and don't wake me up again." The end.